Gori Cuddly Carnage is technically the Conker's Bad Fur Day for modern systems. Don't believe me? Cute animal mascot, raunchy humor, gore, sex, violence, and they say the F word. If that's not the same way to describe Conker's Bad Fur Day, then you're just lying. Gori was made by a small indie studio in the great area of Sweden. Formed in 2017 under the name of Angry Demon Studio, with the team consisting of 3 main people who all went to school together and worked on game studio projects and groups, with William Saul being behind the music, Caroline Petrie the chairwoman and 2D artist, with the last person being John, the CEO of the company. These 3 individuals all had one goal in mind when forming this group. They wanted to create horror games, with their first ever finished project being Unforgiving, a Northern Hymn, a first-person experience with quite the amount of gore, second being something I actually heard of and had interest in playing called Absolove the End of Gods. Both of these titles had pretty good reviews and seemed to be enjoyed by many gamers. To think a studio releasing 2 projects that ended up being perceived well enough is quite remarkable. But the question is, how will they follow up a 3rd title? If you thought hack and slash DMC horror clone with a cute cat and a hoverboard, who would have been on emo girls' backpacks during Invader Zim's height of popularity, yeah, I wouldn't have thought that either. But somehow Angry Demon Studios went this direction, and what came out was a really fun and creative work I've experienced in a super long time. Gori had its first reveal to the public back in 2020 during IGN's Summer of Gaming, with this trailer not really revealing much besides you playing as a cat and fighting demonic unicorns that can transform. But Gori would face several delays till it was released on basically every major system at the time on August 29th. Making this game already a year old. It was thanks to Wired Productions that the team, instead of only having a PC release like they planned, were now able to expand it to other systems. Which is surprising how well this worked out for them when Wired Productions is known for the likes of Shaq Fu 2 and that anime fishing game on PS Vita. But I'll be real, I never even heard a single thing brought up about Gori or saw any trailers as far as I can remember. My exposure was seeing this in a GameStop and always wanting to get it but never did, till 61 Days to Spook came around, and since this is a horror title, it made perfect sense to bite the bullet and buy it. Sadly, I am playing this on my PS5, so I do miss out on the Twitch integration that allows your chat to have their names appear in the game, or help you on your journey, but I need a reason to justify my purchase of my PS5 since everyone knows it has no games. Right, guys? Haha, yeah, I'm so funny! No fucking games for the PS5! Ah! Crazy enough, Gori actually ran a special campaign with Xbox, where you could win this custom Series S console that had a bunch of fur around it. Yeah, this thing makes me itch just looking at it. Right from the start, I want to say this team really nailed what they set out to do. To go from the slow-paced dark horror games they would make to what Gori is, really shows not only the talent and adaptability these devs have, but that cute cuddly mascots are still here to shine. So without further ado, let's paw our way into what Gori Cuddly Carnage has to offer. Gori begins with a very sad spirit telling us about how long we've been flying for, as we soon learn his name is Chip, with a hoverboard starting to talk to him as it's the 2nd character we will be with through our adventure named Frank. During this scene, we learn that all the humans on Earth have been wiped out, as one of the newspapers says, millions dead, while another talks about how the world has ended and the attacks are by ultra pets. But out of nowhere, the ship runs into something and the alarms alert that it's going to explode. Gori hurries and grabs both his friends, and we get this epic shot of him launching out of the exploding ship on his hoverboard. If this doesn't scream cool, then maybe you're just a tool. Now, since we got a good introduction to our 3 lovable bunch of misfits, I can talk about them a bit more in depth here, starting with Chip. He was created to be a modular AI companion for any compatible Cool Toys products. The problem was, during testing in a matter of minutes, the AI would become depressed and only say very negative things about life in itself. Because of this malfunction, all of these prototypes were made to be destroyed. But somehow Chip wound up being in Gori's crew, and will act as the navigator for the ship while offering a sense of groundedness, as his neutral personality works well side by side Gori and Frank's. Majority of the time when he appears, he's just saying sad stuff about him or the situation we're in, or he's telling us where to go next. So while not the most interesting person of the bunch, I can't say I ever disliked him or wanted him gone. unlike Frank. Now, on one hand, I do like his weird random quirks and bombastic ways of delivering lines, with some even making me laugh a few times. Like the one where he tells Gori to get his shit together every time he dies, being a personal favorite of mine. But I'm sorry, he is straight up the most annoying thing in the whole adventure. The writing for this, while I'm sure is supposed to be funny and ironic, it makes me think I'm watching something from VisiPop. All of his chatter is usually just cussing or random references to Duke Nukem. It gets to the point where the ironic writing and delivery starts to be less charming and more tryhardy. Maybe I've just been worn out of this character trope of making your protag come off as raw XD humor delivery vessel, but even my chat after a while wanted him to shut up. Which my prayers did get answered, as later in the story there's a part where he no longer can talk, and I found that section to be more enjoyable. But strangely, this issue of his writing only really seems to be there for the first half of the adventure, as after the halfway point I started to feel like he had more of a character that wasn't just the how many curse words can we say in under a second guy, to the point I actually kind of understood why they wrote him the way they did, and Frank really began to show why he fits right in with the other two. It just really sucks that it takes about 2 to 3 hours before that happens, so till then you're listening to the equivalent of a emo kid trying to recite Gur quotes from Invader Zim by memory. As for how he joined up with Gori, it comes from the fact he was also supposed to be disposed of, as his design caused injuries during testing. But Gori and Frank have been together since Gori's creation, which now leads me to the main feline himself. Gori was one of the first prototypes made for the toy line Ultra Pets, but because of his random angry outbursts and how much he would disobey, they found him unfit for sale, with it soon switching from him to the unicorns we will encounter later. Gori, while not able to speak directly like Frank or Chip, he is able to show character through his meows and expression. This is why even through the story I could always tell when Gori was trying to be cute and cuddly or ready to slaughter at a moment's notice. Now when it comes to his design, it was directly inspired from a bunch of cats, but most importantly this rotund boy here, with a lot of his meow sounds coming from these cats in particular. Now the reason why they went with a cat in particular is because they felt the quickness and personality of a house cat would work for a lead protagonist. Most of the challenge for Gori came from figuring out his outfit, as the cat aspect was the second thing the team already established early on. Luckily it didn't take long to settle on the red jacket and short combo we see here. But if you're not a fan of this outfit, the amount of other designs that are in the game is astounding, from fur color that resembles Cheshire Cat from Alice in Wonderland, to eyes that make Gori look like he tripped out a bit on too much mushrooms. Now personally, my favorite outfit is the edge one you can unlock near the end. Overall, Gori, when not killing and being a disobedient kitty, he does have a soft side from the flashbacks we get throughout the missions. But yeah, man, I really love this guy, and this is probably my bias showing, as I too also own a fat orange cat, but I would die for this feline hero. Now here we are in the first town. I feel this stage is the best showcase of what Gori graphically will offer. I really can't say I've seen a cel-shaded game that looked this good in a while. So many of these stages and areas always got me to stop for a second to look around and just admire my surroundings. The old-timey arcade mission where you're tasked with getting through this retro wasteland and the rainbow floors and giant arcade machines fill the area. It's so cool, and I legit laughed upon seeing the fake Duck Hunt dog sprite where they turned him into a cat instead. Or this one where you use moon jellies as bouncy platforms to get across the map and reach higher areas. The ideas and designs are so creative and somehow still get topped near the end when things get so trippy. It's on par with the missions in Psychonauts, where you go inside someone's brain. I do find it also impressive just how much detail goes into a lot of these simplistic models and areas, because a lot of this will go unnoticed since you're always boosting through them at breakneck speeds. Yeah, the way you move around is always done on a hoverboard, as Gori will never get off and walk. This hoverboard helps the devs build areas that can be both vertically and horizontally, as Gori is able to jump, boost around, and hop off certain objects, creating plenty of movement opportunities through these places. Because of your options for traversal, I found myself a lot wondering if I could do skips in certain places, with the usual answer being, yes I could. Like in this stage right here, where I was curious if I could jump over this huge gap and make it to the other side, and I learned that it is possible. The fact Gori has a movement system that is so easy to pick up and learn is why it's able to push players and create these moments of wanting to branch off the beaten path and take it to places never thought possible. To me, this really shows that Angry Demon Studios can make a good movement system. While playing, this game really reminded me so much of Sunset Overdrive, which weirdly kinda has a few similarities to Gori in a way. Now, the only real time I found the movement to be a bit finicky is when I need to make precise jumps onto platforms from rails. Because of how fast Gori can go and the floatiness of the hovercraft, it can make aiming a landing on narrow platforms a bit of a challenge. Usually you're never really punished for missing, so it's not the biggest deal, but there was one time I ended up in a death loop because I missed a landing while I was running away from a wall of slime, and every time I respawned after getting hit, the slime instantly would catch up to me and it would kill me. So while it is, in my opinion, 99% on the perfect scale, it will still take a bit of finessing. Gori to me really shines when you're boosting through hallways and jumping from rail to rail to grind across the map while clearing large open gaps. Not really when you're doing precise platforming close together. It's why when the moments where you're running away from something chasing you or needing to go really fast to get around somewhere, it is when I'm the happiest with Gori. It won't take long, however, till you reach your first enemy, the unicorn, as we get to witness the massive horde of them begin to eat one as it turns into a monstrosity of a creature. Now, the unicorns are the creation that came after the failure of Gori, but it didn't take long for these unicorns to be infected by a virus called Mother's Gift, with this new virus causing any toy to go from a lovable friend to a human-eating machine that will attack on sight. As you play through the story, you will get more and more flashbacks going into the origins of the virus and how humans have vanished, but it was due to the Mother's Gift virus that the toys ended up overpowering the humans, and now all that is left here are the toys they created. Yeah, as far as the game makes me aware, Gori and the gang are sure that any last remaining humans are gone, meaning the genocide of the human race actually was carried out and completed by these evil toys. But don't worry, because with the help of Frank, Gori can slice, dice, and smash his way to victory. Now, this combat system is truly one of a kind. I can't at all think of anything that really comes close to how this feels. While at the start of the game, all you really have is your basic slice attack, you will later unlock missiles to fire out, a giant hammer-like weapon used for smashing and slamming, a shield that is more often used to reflect projectiles back at the monsters, and more ways to spin and slash your opponents, with the usual perfect dodge thrown in there for good measure. But that's really it. While what we do have here is fun to use and flows very well together, you really only can buy harder hitting versions of these same weapons, as there's not really any new combo attacks or different moves. So anyone that is looking for a more expansive hack and slash system with more options unlocking as you progress will probably be a bit disappointed. But I kinda like how it's again simplified, because one thing I always find a bit hard to master in most hack and slashes is just how many different options you have at killing an enemy. It's why I never really got into DMC all that much, because I usually would get overwhelmed and stick to either using the basic same attacks that work or mash around hoping something cool would happen. Now, before any DMC fans get mad about that, what do you expect from me, as Kingdom Hearts 2 is my peak hack and slash style game? Do you really think I'm gonna play anything that actually requires real thought? Now, Gori's combat isn't just mindless mashing, as it does require you to keep track of your fuel gauge. Without fuel, you're basically going to be doing almost no real damage, as most, if not all major attacks will take fuel to use. You can restore this by either grinding on rainbow rails, getting these special kills on enemies, and sliding on billboards or walls. Besides that, that's really it. Because of how limited your options are at regaining fuel, I found myself a few times with no way to get more because the only 3 options to gain any back weren't available. It's why I would highly recommend powering up your fuel gauge to the max before anything else. Now, I will stand by the combat being a huge praise for the title, and it really does shine with most of the bosses that I'll cover in a bit. There is one major thing I hate a lot about the enemies, and it's the fact a good amount of the bigger threats will have moments where you can't in any way attack them during certain phases. You will notice this pretty quickly when you encounter these giant unicorns. They will do an attack where they glow red and start beating the ground. Now, this move is also quite long and can only be interrupted with a charged missile attack. I don't mind the idea of super armor, but I wish there's a way to parry or be able to time a hit between their attacks That way skilled players could be rewarded for being aggressive towards something as big as this. Instead now, everyone has to sit there and wait for it to finish. It's also very easy to dodge because it only hits the ground as they move, and Gori can just jump into the air really high and basically never touch the ground. There's a few other enemies who are plagued with this super armor effect, like these hand creatures where they shoot this laser, and when it does, it straight up can't be attacked at all. You can't even get near it or you get hurt even if the laser didn't hit you. This weirdly implemented mechanic just brings what would be an engaging moment to think and react to dealing with, to basically being a water break as you're forced to run and do nothing else. By all means, this isn't game ruining, and when you have the missile and can send a charged one to their face, this again defeats my whole complaint, but that's a valuable charge you have to waste, and sometimes you won't have said fuel or missiles. But if this is the worst I can say about the game's combat, then by all means, I think the devs did a great job. Upon reaching our first boss, it's the hand creature I talked about not even a minute ago, and it's a pretty alright first boss. Nothing to write home about, but fits with an introduction encounter. Upon leaving the area, we get a cut to, oh, yeah, okay, I'm sorry, but another complaint I have is why is the skip cutscene option toggle depressing or holding anything on the controller? That includes even pressing slightly up on the control stick. I ended up skipping almost every cutscene because I kept forgetting to put my controller down and not touch anything. Maybe this is nitpicky, but I just find it strange that I can even touch the control stick, which is something more than likely you will be holding or interacting with right before the cutscene starts. If somehow the devs see this, please can you just set it to B or circle or whatever and have it only happen if you hold that, for the love of God. We beat the first area and now can put Chip back into our ship, but it doesn't take long for something to happen, with us noticing a bunch of unicorns trying to break into our new ride. We end up having to protect Chip as he's being transferred into the ship's AI. Normally, I'm not a fan of this type of mission, but the fact of how fun it is to grind and move around made me enjoy having to really prioritize certain groups and think on my toes. But even with protecting Chip, the bear in a box shows itself, and this is really where the horror themes shine bright, as we can see what appears to be a bear with his front face ripped off, showing a bloody skull underneath. He even says the F word, so he's super scary now. Now, besides him summoning the hand creatures we just fought and not really understanding at first I needed to hit the balloons at him to create an explosion, I really thought this fight was fun. Getting to cut his head off also made the struggle and annoyance of the hands worth it. But since we're on the topic of bosses, I feel they all work really well and help create a good sense of challenge and spectacle, with the boss before the final one being, in my opinion, the peak of this design in action, as it not only has fast-paced platforming moments, but a good combat scenario towards dealing with the threat. And this is one of the few times where I don't mind a boss summoning a bunch of minions to help fight, because these smaller threats are how you refuel your hoverboard, so it weirdly feels like it fits into the encounter instead of being thrown in to help the boss feel more engaging. But these designs are where they shine. The second boss in particular, looking like a UFO with a gigantic eye you need to shoot and a mouth below, really stood out to me. Having it start off like a normal eye boss where you hit it with a missile to then see it cut the stage in half, forcing you to dodge the lasers as you hop from one island to another, just for Gori to grind on its leg rails to remove them. With this all being fought in what appears to be a vaporwave style heaven or hell, depends on who you ask. John actually mentioned in an interview he originally hated this boss and had to rework it, with him spending a whole weekend to do that, with the final game version we see here, in his opinion, being what he really wanted. The only real boss I didn't like is the third one, where you have to avoid the ground, as it's covered in electricity and you're forced to hit all these switches with missiles that surround it so it can stop shocking the ground. It just got a bit annoying having to do this multiple times and going back and trying to land on narrow platforms. It's not all that fun. Then when it's not shocking everything, you just have to lure it to a trap to finally deal damage. I think I just really dislike when I have to wait instead of being more aggressive and using the moments where the enemy is open to being damaged to my advantage, as I much rather go in on the attack to find said opening than wait around to bait the boss into a wall of electricity. At least this stage has the manager, who is a personified child that runs the factory, and at first he wants to be your friend, but when you disobey his rules, the manager ends up just wanting you to die and even mocks you during the fight. It's actually a very funny gag, and they do introduce us later to the sister manager who shit talks the previous one. Now after every stage, you will be teleported back to the hub ship and pick the next location on the map. It's a nice way to break the insane action by plopping you back into this calm, cozy area of your home ship. It won't take long, however, for you to notice these locked doors throughout the places, as there's 8 in total. Now these all require a key that can be found in every stage and will grant you a new costume. To find this key, you need to listen for the voice that calls you by saying here, kitty kitty. If you collect all 3 parts, you can come back and unlock the door. I really like how this feels more in line with something you see on the N64 like in Banjo. I do stand by, if this ever was released on the PS2, it would have been a cult classic for sure. Besides that though, there's not much really to do here, but that's not to say I don't enjoy exploring it. But whenever you do boot back into the next level, you will see this cutscene that's animated to appear like a comic strip, as it's the backstory of how Gori and his owner Professor got separated. With each level beaten, more and more info gets shown to us how the unicorns contracted Mother's gift, and why Gori and the gang are trying to find the Professor again. All in all, it's a story that actually pulled at the heartstrings a bit and made me really fall in love with this crew more than I thought. But that's something you will have to find out for yourself. Now, normally I do insane deep dives and cover every bit I can about a game, to the point my videos can take hours long sometimes. But this won't be one of them, as I really think you should play Gori, as this is super cheap to own and worth your money. I would feel honestly pretty bad revealing anything more than I already have to you, as I want whoever does decide to play this to really experience everything firsthand yourself. This small dev team deserves that, and I wouldn't want anyone to not play this because I showed everything off. So with that, I will be ending the video here, but I again will state, please check out Gori, and if you do, you can apparently enter the competition right now, as this script is being written to win Gori's board if you get a golden ticket, I guess. It probably won't be happening when this video is out, but still worth mentioning, so please play it, and with that, I'll see you all next time on the next review for 61 Days of Spook. Goodbye.
Gori Cuddly Carnage. It's a cat on a hoverboard fighting